Killian Hayes has gone from being labeled as one of the worst in the NBA from analytics, statistics, and from just the eye test to being a competent starter in just his third season. How'd We Get Here episode 2 is all about the French Prince and basically his timeline of key events in his Pistons tenure thus far. If you missed the first one, make sure to check it out. It covers Saddiq Bey and his disappearing offensive weapons. But back to Killian, the journey for him to get to this point where he's at today has been anything but easy. And it doesn't help that early in the scouting process when he was overseas, some compared him to James Harden or other lefty greats like Manu Ginobili. There were a ton of mock drafts that had him listed all the way up in the early lottery, and there was one that had him all the way up at 1. I think that was James O'Connor, but he ended up falling to number 7 to Detroit, which was a team that handed the raw guard from France the keys as a starter day 1. A key point to remember is this team did have Derrick Rose at that point, but they just wanted Derrick Rose to be that guy off the bench, but I really do think they should have reversed those roles. Because although Troy Weaver wanted to throw his first draft pick for the Pistons right into the fire, I don't believe this set him up for any success in any way. I do understand the mindset of letting him play through his mistakes and learn as he goes, but it was very obvious that his confidence never really recovered. One thing people forget is he had a career-altering injury his rookie year just 7 games in with a torn labrum in his hip. And this is also what makes it hard to judge the Pistons' decision to throw him right into the fire, because maybe it would have worked if he would have played more, but he didn't play a lot his rookie year. I mean, if you're looking at the game log of every single game, it's easy to pick out what his best game was, and that's against the Chicago Bulls in April, in his only game scoring above 13 points. And he scored 21 points that night to go along with 8 rebounds, 7 assists, and the most promising thing was he shot 52% from the field and 50% from deep. This game was key because it kind of showed the potential of what he could become, and it kind of gave people hope. I mean, some people still didn't believe it, but it probably kept some of the supporters around as well. But going into year 2, he had a completely different set of challenges. The largest one was to learn to start and play next to the number 1 pick and generational talent in Cade Cunningham. Many questioned the fit just due to both of them needing the ball in their hands at basically all times to do well. Through the first 11 games of this year though, you would have thought this would have been their backcourt of the future because Killian kind of strived in his role off ball. Off of 30 attempts, he drained 13, putting him at about a scorching hot 43% from deep. To go along with some great defense, this was a great run for him. The last game in the stretch came on November 13th against Toronto, where he drilled 3 of 4 from deep, had his first career double-double and near triple-double with 13 points, 10 assists, and 7 rebounds. The big reason though the streak did come to an instant stop was due to him leaving in the middle of a game with a thumb injury on his shooting hand, and he came back to finish the game to help secure a win, but he just didn't look the same after. Over the next 5 games to finish the month of November, he only shot 15% from deep. And to be honest, it almost became a meme or a joke online because this was a continuous trend. Every time he continued to gain momentum and we saw some good flashes, he would get hurt. Either it was concussion or a leg injury or a hand injury. You name it, he probably had it. The biggest development of this year though was him opting to come off the bench to get more opportunity on ball as the leader of the bench unit. He didn't have a major stat jump or anything, but improvement, and he looked more of like a quality NBA player. Over the course of the last 33 games, his per game averages went from 6 to 8 points, 3 to 5 assists, and from 34% from the field to 42% from the field. It's safe to say he finished off pretty hot, especially a great game against OKC, which was a career night for him. Most fans though treated the beginning of his 3rd year, which is this year, as a make it or break it year, and honestly, I think he thought the same thing, as in 2 straight years they drafted their backcourt of the future in Cade and Ivy, which left him as kind of the odd man out. It's obvious the pressure got to him because in his first 11 games he played some of the worst basketball we have ever seen from him, and he just averaged 2.7 points per game on awful shooting. His best outing of the year came on November 9th though, after this 11 game stretch when he dropped 16 points off of 58% shooting. I think many saw this game as an anomaly, but Cade Cunningham then suffered an injury that thrusted Killian Hayes into the starting lineup. Actually, I think Corey Joseph was starting, picked up 2 early fouls in a game, and Killian just couldn't be moved back to the bench because that would have been malpractice by Dwayne Casey by taking away any momentum from him. Then for a few games, he remained a little bit streaky but had good game and then decent game. He never went back to the depths of those first 11 games. And fast forward to these past 4, and he has completely blown up. I mean, average of 16.5 points, 5 rebounds, and 8 assists per game. This has come against quality teams in Phoenix, Cleveland, New York, and most recently Dallas on national TV. During this stretch, everything seems to be becoming very easy from him starting from the mid-range. He's finding his shot and he has a go-to shot, and it's very promising to see because in his first 2 years, he often looked lost when trying to find ways to score, never had something he felt confident in, and now he can shoot from the mid-range, which then gives him confidence from 3 and to score inside. It reminds me a little bit of how Cade Cunningham started the year, a little bit inconsistent, but then knew if he starts in the mid-range, everything else will just come right to him. And honestly, it is hard to imagine him keeping up this level of play, but just know that Killian Hayes really has arrived, and you have to give credit where credit's due. Went from the worst player statistically in the league to a competent starter. I mean, this guy turned the corner in front of our eyes, which most players seems to do over the course of an offseason. A lot of times you don't really see these mid-season tweaks just happen, going from really bad to pretty dang good. But for Killian Hayes, it was over the course of his 11th to 12th game. This season's going to be full of up and downs. I think we just have to enjoy the ride. If you did enjoy this How'd We Get Here episode on Killian Hayes, please leave a like, please subscribe, leave a comment. We are almost to 200 followers. Thank you. Have a great day.